I'll call the North Smithfield School Committee of Tuesday, October 18, 2022 to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Lombardi.
Present.
Mrs. Mayo. Here. Mrs. Vada called in and notified she would not be present tonight. Mr. Connell
Here.
and Mr. Jones.
Here. We have a quorum. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Moving on to either public comment or community comment. Councilwoman O'Hara, did you sign up?
Yes, I did.
If you'd like to come over, or I can bring a microphone to you, whatever you'd like.
My name is Claire O'Hara. I live at 16 Summit Avenue, North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Please excuse the situation. I'm having oral surgery, and thank God the mask is still being used in some places because it saved a lot of wear and tear on me. I'm here before you as a teacher, a parent, and a citizen of our community. I know other states have worked to extend free hot lunch. I don't know how they're doing it, but I can tell you there is a necessity. With the cost of heating fuel, cost of food, a lot of children are going without. Even if they get hot lunch, many of them have athletics after school. And with those athletics, there should be something before. Protein bars, something. And I know for a fact that we have great teachers. They've always had a concern for students that out of their pockets, they're making sure that these children are being provided for, but I think the numbers are going to be greater. If I have to appear at a state level, and it seems ironic because people that are being assisted by the state, their food rations go up. It's going up a second time, I think 25%. They get more upgrade and clothes for children. And at this age, you could buy a pair of sneakers 2 months later, they don't fit, especially boys. And they're proud. I don't know what I can do or what we can do to make free lunch and have something in the departments where we have runners, etc., for these children. I salute the teachers, but it's not an individual, it's a community thing. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity. I don't know what we can do, if there's grants out there, or if the state, if Mass can do it. And I think Connecticut's looking into it now. And there are many other communities in this country that have extended it. What can we do? And kids are very proud. We've done adopt a family for years, and you know it. The Congregational Church is very good. The only thing with you buy something at home, your child may be shopping for you. They see someone with that coat at school, and what happens? Oh, we bought you that. You can't have it. I don't know, and if there's anyone that's going to know about grants, she's sitting right there, the grant queen of the Northeast. If we had someplace, if I have to build something, and I know the way we worked, I used to make appointments and people would come an hour. I do it 5 a night. We start at 5, end at 10. And they could pick, or we would get gift cards so that the person, the child and parent, no one had to know. And we always made sure that, at least I know the church, again, we're starting again, would be provided with warm things. Now, I know even Wheeler and certain schools in, in Providence have coat exchanges. And let me tell you, there, people go, and these people could well afford, but I don't know if we could stretch that out. And it would be up to date, what the kids are wearing, but we have to provide for our children. They've taken enough out of their lives with what they got, what we've all gone through. But now the adjustment is a very difficult one. It couldn't hurt junior high, you call it middle school now, and high school at a worse time. They're changing, their little hormones are changing, the whole look's changing. I had one that wanted to have braids. So to humor him, we got braids. He braided his hair, and he tried to fix them, and they came out. He was going to have a heart attack the other night, and I'm saying, oh God. So I'm sure we found someone who could rebraid it. But their image, they're fighting to discover who they are. And if we can make their journey easier, let me know. I'm here for you. I will do anything I can. And I think it has to be one of our priorities. Situ. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Councilwoman, I agree with you 100%, and we have looked into it, the free lunches at lunch. And it is a substantial amount, but we're going to look at it. Thank you for bringing that to our attention again. We will look at it again and see if there are grants out there. We understand the importance of that. Yes. Okay. Superintendent?
Yes, we'll continue to take a look at that,
Thank you.
and I think it's fantastic, the concerns that Councilwoman O'Hara brought to us. And I will tell you, we do an awful lot for the students as much as we can. But the free and reduced lunch, losing the universal lunch, that did hurt. And I'm not sure if it's an easy how to get that back, but certainly advocating within the community, advocating within the state to see what the means are. And I will look into when you were saying that Massachusetts was doing something like this and Connecticut was looking at it. You know, we can certainly look at it as a district and advocate at the state level. I have superintendent meetings every month. In fact, I'm going to be meeting this Friday with superintendents and business managers. And I'm sure that we'll bring that up as a topic of conversation.
And if we have to lobby at the state level, I will get it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Seeing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any issues with the consent agenda?
No, Chair, I just had one question.
Sure.
Just on the suicide prevention policy, that's going to be based on the Nathan Bruno Act, I know. That's not written yet, right? It's just, that's what I saw, we're going to write it. That's not written yet, right?
So there are two parts. There's the policy, which this is the written part. And then there's the procedure that follows that. and we will share that out. That's not something that a school committee needs to approve the procedure, but I would like you to see it and, be able to provide feedback on that. But yes, our procedure is about 95% written. We just want our social workers, our psychologists to have another go through and see if they have any additional changes to add to it. Thanks.
Anything else? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. So moved. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
I basically have two things to mention on this one. One is a follow-up to the virtual snow day application to the Department of Ed, along with the survey we put out to the families. Now, we did this about a month ago. We put the surveys out, and it was basically 80% was in favor of doing a virtual snow day, 20% not in favor. So we've been writing our application, and I don't know, what are we up to, about 40 pages now? Possibly 40 pages for this application, with the understanding that when we're looking at virtual snow days, they were only to be a last case scenario, only if we've had a bad winter and we need to make up some time, or we know a storm is coming out well in advance and we can call it. It's not one of those things that at 5 a.m, there's ice on the road, we suddenly declare, hey, virtual snow day. That's not the way we intend it. That's not the way it's going to work. However, as we're working on the application, one of the things that, and we talked about this, to go back to everybody to make clear, one of the RIDE requirements is that there has to be a minimum of 3 hours online instruction. So this isn't one of those things in which we have hours for certain teachers, or we run certain classes, or we do assignments at home where they can check in with their teachers. There has to be 3 solid hours of online instruction, Google Meets, so on, which honestly is quite problematic, because when we're looking to do something like this, it will be because there is a major blizzard and now we have power requirements. We also have kids who may not be at home with mom or dad with the computer. They may have to go to a neighbor's, they may have to go to a grandparent or someone somewhere else. Now, we do provide the technology. We do have great internet access throughout the community, but it's not an easy lift. And so what we talked about doing is putting out the survey again to parents and teachers, making it very clear, if we do this, there has to be 3 hours of instruction virtually, all right, minimally. Now, that may be a bit more pause for people. So we'd just like to update that number before we submit our 40 to 50 page application. I'm not even going to comment on the process. So it's not like we haven't done something like this before. So I just wanted to update you on that this isn't necessarily a slam dunk. I do want to put this out to the community with a bit more information that we've gathered, along with some of the more problematic elements of this. If the community still says, absolutely, go ahead, we've already done the work, we'll file it, but we just want everyone to be aware of what it means.
And it's different than an asynchronous day. So this week, we actually have an asynchronous day planned, and that is a professional development day that the Department of Ed has allowed us to have. We're doing safety training as a district, and our students will be working at home, but there's a lot of flexibility with that. And that's great for families. And we just didn't want to give families the impression that this snow day application is the same thing. And and we didn't want anyone to feel duped. Like I filled out the survey thinking that I was voting for an asynchronous day. And as a parent, I have a lot of flexibility. And there really won't be flexibility with this. There'll be certain times that their child will have to be online to be present for the class. And if they're not present, they will be marked absent. And that was very clear in the guidance. And it's just a little bit different than the flexibility we have during asynchronous days. And we wanted to be clear about that.
Okay, if there aren't any questions on that, the second is, I think this is going to be, and probably will be problematic for some in the community. The solar project, pad parking. We've been going over and getting more information, and we have had communications with the town planner. Some of the questions came up as far as zoning. And yes, this project will have to go before the zoning board for special use permits and waivers. So it's not a straight bill. There has to be some groundwork. And the other thing too is that due to the complexity of this and the requirements to go out for bid, that we can't approach this to green development as a sole source. We do have to create the bid specifications. And this was the concern that I had when we talked about this last time, that the complexities of this are such that, and again, this is from the town planner, that we do need to hire an engineering firm to create the bid specifications in order to go out to bid. So we would have to invest a lot of time and money in this, let alone the 40-year leases and everything else. That's for the town to consider. However, if the end goal is to add additional parking to the athletic field, we can do that directly for a fairly reasonable price. That is, and we looked into this, is also eligible for ride reimbursement. Surprisingly, shockingly, but it is. So we did get, Mr. Seepy did reach out to a company to come in to do a ballpark, an estimate of clearing the trees, adding 60 spaces, paving it over, joining it to the current parking, not having an additional outlet, all right, but just to add 60 spaces. And again, the estimate was about 140,000, of which 35% is possibly eligible for ride reimbursement. So as much as I like the thought of the solar in the canopy and moving forward in that direction, I do have concerns about longevity of it and going forward and maintenance and upkeep. But to add 60 spaces, we could do that. So again, I'm making this recommendation. I know this is in the superintendent report part, and it's not in a section of the agenda for vote. But if you want to have, I'm assuming discussion would be acceptable.
As long as you don't vote on anything.
Right.
Well, I think our ultimate goal was the 60 parking spaces. I think that was what was most important to
Right.
us. And I think it was clear from our last meeting that we did have some concerns, or I did personally anyway. We had some concerns and issues with it. So I appreciate all the efforts that you went to, but it sounds like the best plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you, I mean, I don't think I'm out of line to say, do an RFP and then we'll make the decision. When you come back, we'll see
Yep.
the numbers, we'll see the size. The only other thing, you know, what you're probably gonna have to try to add some lighting in there somehow.
Right.
Hopefully that won't be
Right.
break the budget, but we put something together and again, I don't want to, if it's okay, and bring it back and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do it. And just, you know, I mean, I can tell you, anytime I'm over there, there are people all over the street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an accident waiting to happen.
Right.
Even JV, they're in the street.
Mhm.
So it's never mind the regular game, the, high school games. And that's with, even with this filled in.
Right.
So I think it's absolutely necessary to get that parking, one way or the other.
Mr. Chair, if I may, ask just a comment or a question. Like they did mention when they were talking about it last time, whether we use the solar or not, we're still extending land. We're gonna be digging right above the football field. We're gonna have to plant the runoff too and have some kind of catch. Will they have?
Yeah, and that was in the estimate, the
It was?
grading and
Okay.
all that was planned.
Okay.
So, but for me, the game changer was that it's potentially ride reimbursable. And if that's the case, I also want to deal with widening the entrance and exit to NSES. Because talk about accidents waiting to happen and parking overflow. I mean, we need to do something there as well. So,
Great.
but that's also going to be part of a larger, the next 5-year round application for necessity of construction with the Department of Education and the school building authority.
If you have money in that revolving fund and you can do it cheaper by doing it both at the same time, again, feel free to come back to
Right.
the committee and make a presentation. I'm sure we could be supportive.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, and just Superintendent, did you want to update us? I didn't want to bring it up on the hazing presentation.
Yeah, so Mr. Elliott Hopkins came out a couple of weeks ago and he met with all of the high school students and over a 2-day period in groups of about 40 to 50. And he did his presentation on hazing and sportsmanship. And I have to say, it was a very compelling presentation. He also presented to our coaches on Wednesday night. And again, it was riveting. It was great conversation with the coaches and the questions that they brought up afterwards. Again, I thought it was very powerful. In fact, I had some folks come up afterwards and say that recommend that he come back. We bring Mr. Hopkins back every year to meet with all athletes, parents, and just make it a continuation. And again, not specifically for the hazing, but the sportsmanship, the brotherhood, sisterhood, the being good to each other, and what pride is. And then, unfortunately, we did do a community presentation for the parents, but it was very sparsely attended, which was a shame because he's a very powerful speaker with a very important message. And but yes, we would like to have him back again, and we certainly truly appreciate the help of the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, who all his fees to come out here were waived because, including travel, because of the association with the National Federation of High School and the Rhode Island Interscholastic League. So again, he proved a great resource to North Smithfield, and we look forward to him not just coming out to North Smithfield, but to other Rhode Island districts. Again, top notch, top in his field, absolutely fantastic presentations.
That's great. Thank you.
I actually have a question. I was there at the parent meeting and very disappointed to see that parents were not there. And I was just wondering how that information got out to them. How were they made aware of that?
An email was sent out to every high school parent that Mr. Hopkins was coming in during these 2 days to talk with every student. And then on this day, they're talking on with coaches. And then I put in bold a parent community forum, 7 p.m., high school auditorium. Everyone is welcome to join. In hindsight, I wish I had extended it out to middle school parents as well. But that the message in his coming in was specifically geared for high school. But it was unfortunate. More people should have heard him.
Absolutely. It was very, very good. But I do have an athlete up at the high school
Mhm.
who heard it, and he was very impressed. So, yeah, he learned something from it. Which is
Excellent.
good.
Perfect.
Well, maybe if he comes back, we can revisit how to get the message out even more so, you know. I'm
Absolutely.
sure we can, I'm sure we can all work.
All right, moving on to the informational part of the personnel resignations, retirements, leaves of absences, and appointments, special extracurricular appointments, and coaching appointments.
I would just like to call out Erin Smith and Carol Charest
Mhm.
for retiring. 24 years with us and 20 years with us. And, you know, I wish them all the best as they move on.
Are they here?
Okay, moving on to old business. In regards to the 22 and 23 budgets. Lisa, anything? Great, thank you. And moving on to new business, Mr. Tech. I should have probably called you much earlier. Sorry.
I don't really need a microphone, but good evening. So I was brought up to present a couple of things that are going on that we're making some potential changes with the committee's endorsement on that. One of the things that have been presented to us as an option was that we used to collect at the gate. We always charge admission fees at athletic events, and then that came to a halt once we had the pandemic. So over a couple of years of the pandemic, there was no admission charges. So this year kind of represented a getting back to business as usual sort of mantra. And the conversation started turning to whether we were going to return back to the practice of collecting at the gates with the cash and what was the purpose of it and what we were going to do with it. One of the options that was presented was with having the North Smithfield Athletic Association man the gates, so to speak, and instead of charging a fee, basically it was donations. So donations were made to come into the game with adults only, both from our community and the visiting community with no charge for any children whatsoever. So whether they were children coming from our community and other, we weren't going to be looking to chase them down. We wanted higher attendance. We wanted more participation by the kind of community to get involved with that. With that being said, it answered one of the classic questions all the time, which is, where's the money go? We collect this money at the gate, where's the money go? Well, having the North Smithfield Athletic Association collecting it, it goes directly back to our student athletes. So because they're recognized booster group by the school department, therefore they fund all the wants that we present to them that are not covered in our athletic budget. So now it basically serves as a fundraiser. And instead of going to knock on the doors of all our businesses in the community and other places, it was a built-in fundraiser where we were collecting money already and now turning it around and spinning it back to the student athletes with that. So going into this year, we had a little money left in the athletic checking account because we did not pay for our game management over the last couple of years because of COVID funds and other things of that nature. So this year it was thought that this was probably the best trial year to try that out, given the fact that we have enough funds left in the athletic checking account where if we did not collect one penny this year as a school department, we still had the ability to pay the necessary expenses of our game management. Therefore, makes it neutrally a wash this year. So no impact on the athletic budget whatsoever, no additional cost to the school district. What it does allow us to do, though, is allows us to, at least within this year, fund extra wants to the athletic programs and provides us a nice data point to see over this course of this year, how much do we actually bring in at the gates now that we've kind of gone back to that process? And is there a larger or smaller increase in that due to it being a donation and people knowing exactly where that money is going? So that's what kind of has been going on right now, is there's all these signs where it says like season pass, family pass, and things of that nature. It was an ability for a community member to purchase a one-time pass, and that would serve for them to go to all the fall, winter, and spring games, rather than going with a family of five and then reaching to find their wallet and say, well, do I have $20, 25? I'm not trying to do this. It was more of like, I make a donation, I'm in, now I can attend these events and continue to support all of our teams. So it's kind of in a nutshell what the process is. And then at the end of the year, we can furnish a report to say, this is what the cost of game management was for this fiscal year. This is what was brought in as revenue, so to speak, by the NSAA. At that point, determination can be made as we go for the budget cycle for next year. Do we want to include a line item that now the school department just simply says, well, we're going to cover game management out of the athletic budget and make a slight increase in that budget and continue with the NSAA doing what it's doing? Do we sit there and say, I'm just making these numbers up, but let's say they brought in 25,000 and game management was 8,000. Do we ask the NSAA to say, well, can you reimburse the school department the 8,000 that would cost for game management, and whatever proceeds are left over afterwards, it's yours. That's your fundraiser built in as well too. So making kind of almost a partnership in that aspect of things, which then would not increase the budget per se for that particular area. Or change back and say, no, we gave it a run and it's not what we want to do, and we want to go back to a method of us collecting the money and retaining those revenues for the school department. So I think that this is kind of one of those quote unquote free trials, if you want to use that term to it, where it's kind of like my recommendation, a kind of no brainer to try that out, because the money is going back to our kids one way or another. And I think it may be a great beneficial jumping point for us going forward. And I think like the biggest thing is just eliminates that having to have to add on additional fundraisers and really knocking down at the community, which obviously, as we pointed out by Clara Hare and everyone, that money's tight. And so it's one of those things where we can provide a tangible benefit out of it. It's worth a shot at it, I guess, is what I would say. So that's kind of in a nutshell what that presentation was, as far as whether it will have an impact next year or not, will more determine upon how we continue and make a recommendation on that.
I have some questions on this. So we have a management company hopefully coming in to manage the field. How does that impact? Are they doing nothing with the gate receipts?
Correct. So the management company, as we're seeing, is that they run the concession stands for their source of income during our school events. And then for outside rental events, they rent out, and obviously whether it's express football or whether it's Mach 1 on the weekends, they run that as well too. So they were never involved with charging at the gate or receiving any receipts whatsoever. So that was not part of the conversation.
Who's going to be in charge of advertising? So the signage.
So right now, the North Smithfield Athletic Association has been doing that. I know that they're working also on some more additional signage throughout the community as well too, but they have been the front runners on that. And basically what they have been doing is they have been getting support from each of the sport teams who provide volunteers to be there for that particular
Are
sport.
you talking about the NSAA signage, or are you talking about the advertising out at the field?
Isn't it one and the same?
No.
I think he's talking about the advertising at the gates coming in. Is that what you're referencing? Or he's talking about?
The backstops?
Yeah, no,
Or the
that's
gates
the
coming
management
in?
company. That's
What
the
is
that's the management company will be responsible for the advertising.
Okay. On both sides. So
Yes.
you're walking in,
All the ads you see up around the fences,
Yes.
that's all from the management company.
okay. So I just want to make sure that the overall goal is to put a certain amount of money aside every year. So in 12 to 15 years,
Right.
we at least have a down payment
So
on a field.
most of,
Hopefully it's 3/4, maybe it's half, but
Right.
I don't, I want to make sure that we're being responsible to the next school
We-
committee that is going to end up paying for a new
we
field.
never really earned much money from charging at the gate.
Okay.
It was basically, it would sort of offset the game manager, the scoreboard.
Ticket collector. shot, yeah,
Well,
all of
in fact, we even paid a ticket collector to collect money. So, which it took away from the money that was actually collected. So there's really two parts. So the gate receipt in the NSAA is to make it so families can come affordably. We don't charge children ultimately, whether we can arrange it with them or we do something within our own budget, as far as the game manager and the person running the scoreboard comes out of us or is an offset of the NSAA donation piece. That's one thing. The replacement of the field, that is going to be based on our agreement with Wide World of Indoor Sports for the rentals, for the advertising, for a percentage of the concessions. So there are basically two pieces going on here. And I'm hoping I should have the final contract for you to take a look at the next meeting. Right now, our attorney, Ben Scungio, is reviewing the documentation that we have in the initial agreement and contract. But that's really close to turning around. And then you'll get an idea of what percentage or flat rates we're looking at, monthly, quarterly, however we set it up, how much money we anticipate earning every year through this agreement.
But also
Great.
to a second, point on to piggyback off of that, one of the other avenues that we can be looking to explore now that you have a fully functioning concession stand, now that you have fully functioning bathrooms, it's already happened in the fall. The round scholastically reaches out to schools and is looking for neutral sites to host playoffs for other teams besides your own. And then they look for those rounds. Well, now the percentages of the concession stand and things of those natures are coming back to the school department. You start flooding in some extra games there. Now you're bringing in additional revenue at no cost to the district to start hosting those type of games. And that's where your moneymaker can be made because it doesn't cost the district to run it, yet you're reaping the benefits of that. And then they're looking for the dual games. So they don't want just one game, they want back-to-back games. That's 4 high schools arriving here. Playoff time, as anyone who's going to playoff games know, that tends to bring communities out in large droves. So there's additional opportunities that will be coming down the line with that management group and everything that can help with funding for that newer field you said at some point down the line.
Okay. Do we have any further questions? I think that's a great idea. We can try it out in the first year and see what makes sense. Okay, Councilwoman O'Hara.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. I think I went to the lacrosse game last year, the playoffs, and I think, I'm gonna say it was $12 per person to get
Yeah,
in.
so.
And they
so-
charge the kids 8, I believe.
Yeah, so that's when you start getting.
Not here. It
No,
was
no,
a
no,
different
no,
field.
yeah, so when you get to like semifinals and finals, a lot of time the rounds Scholastic, we will set the rate at the gate and collect it there. And then they pay off the expenses. So in other words, if we were hosting it, they would charge whatever rate they decide to charge. We don't get any of the gate, but they pay all the expenses of you providing supervisors, things of that nature. The payoff for us would be the concession stand and all that, because the league has nothing to do with that. And if you've come to any of the games already, you see the line forms at the concession stand now.
Yeah.
The line is long, which is a good thing because people are going and getting in line. And so when you bring the kids, you may not pay the $3 or the $1 to get the kid in, but you're going to make up for it when you get in the line at the concession stand because they're all going to want food. And so I think that that's kind of where we're benefiting from it.
Thank you. Anybody have
Thank you.
any other questions?
Thank you, Matt.
Are you looking for a vote in any way?
You gonna vote on this? It says not to vote.
Would you, would
Yeah,
make a proposal?
Probably should have a vote.
Okay, make
Let's
a,
do it, just to.
Do it.
okay. Wait,
Yes. Yes. Correct, yes. Yeah. So in joint with North Smithfield Athletic Association Executive Board and myself as Athletic Director, I'd like to make a formal recommendation that we allow the North Smithfield Athletic Association to collect donations at all the games that normally we would charge for this year only, and to be reviewed at the end of the year for the feasibility going forward.
motion's been made. You have it?
Second.
And seconded. Bottom, I have that?
It'll be on the video.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to executive session now, so I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session under Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A3. Discussion vote or other action regarding security, including but not limited to the deployment of security personnel or devices, school district emergency response plan for 22-23 school year. Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Roll call, please.
Chair Lombardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Okay, and I am going to pause the video and then resume once we come back from executive.
So I'll entertain a motion to seal the record.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. For the record, we want to say that there were no votes taken in executive session. Am I missing anything? I'll entertain a motion to approve the emergency response plan for 2022-2023 school year as presented in an executive session. Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any further business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We're adjourned.